Are you doing this right now? I just gave birth to your babies!
The hospital room smelled like bleach and regret. Lydia Grant's fingers trembled as she stared at the papers her husband just dropped on her lap. Divorce papers. She'd given birth 40 minutes ago. Her twin sons were still being cleaned in the corner of the room, their cries filling the sterile air. And Park Yi-hyun, the man she'd loved for 7 years, stood at the foot of her bed with his arms crossed like he was terminating a business contract. "Sign it," he said, no emotion, no hesitation. Lydia's voice came out broken. "Yi, I just had your babies." "That's exactly why we're doing this now." His mother stepped out from behind him, Mrs. Park, elegant in her cream Chanel suit, smiling like she'd been waiting for this moment her entire life. "You trapped my son with this pregnancy. You knew he wanted out, but you got pregnant anyway like some desperate." "Mother, please," Yi-hyun cut her off, but he didn't defend Lydia. He just sighed like this whole situation exhausted him. Lydia looked between them, her body still numb from the epidural, her heart breaking in real time. "You're really doing this, right now?" "I've already moved my things out," Yi-hyun said flatly. "Alina is waiting for me downstairs. We're flying to Jeju tonight." Alina, of course. Alina Choi, 24 years old, daughter of a tech billionaire, long legs, perfect skin. A woman who'd never worked a real job but called herself an entrepreneur because she had an Instagram brand deal. Mrs. Park tilted her head, studying Lydia like she was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. "You'll get child support. Be grateful. Most women in your position get nothing." Lydia felt something inside her snap. Not break. Snap. Like a bone setting wrong, calcifying into something sharp and unforgiving. "Get out," she whispered. Yi-hyun raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me." "Get out." Her voice cracked, loud enough that a nurse poked her head in, concerned. He shrugged, turned, walked out without looking back. His mother followed, heels clicking against the linoleum like a countdown to Lydia's complete destruction. The door swung shut. Lydia sat there, shaking, staring at the divorce papers, listening to her newborn son's cry in the corner. And for the first time in 7 years, she let herself feel the full weight of how much she'd sacrificed for a man who saw her as disposable. But Yi-hyun made one critical mistake that night. He assumed Lydia had nothing. No family, no money, no power. He'd always assumed that. It's why he'd felt so comfortable discarding her. He had no idea who she really was. And by the time he found out, it would be far too late. Besties, before we continue, let me ask you a question. Have you subscribed to our channel? If not, please do so to help this channel build a strong community and tell us where you are watching from in the comment section. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the girl Yi-hyun thought he knew. Lydia Grant grew up in a small town outside Houston, raised by her grandmother after her parents died in a car accident when she was 9. They didn't have much. Her grandmother cleaned houses. Lydia worked at a diner on weekends, saving every dollar for nursing school. She was brilliant, top of her class, full ride to UT Austin. By 23, she was a registered nurse working pediatric oncology, which is where she met Yi-hyun. He walked into the children's ward looking lost. Expensive suit, Rolex, clearly out of place. Turned out his company was doing a charity photo op, some corporate initiative to look good in the press. Lydia was changing the IV for a 6-year-old girl with leukemia when he approached her. "Do you ever get used to it?" he asked quietly. "Seeing kids this sick?" She looked up at him, really looked, saw something soft underneath all that polished confidence. "No, but you learn to be strong for them anyway." They talked for an hour. He stayed long after the photographers left, came back the next week without the cameras, then the week after that. 3 months later, he asked her to dinner. 6 months later, he proposed. His mother flew in from Seoul for the engagement party and made her feelings immediately clear. She pulled Lydia aside in the bathroom, smile still plastered on her face, and said in perfect English, "You're a phase. My son has always been drawn to charity cases, but when it's time to build a real life, he'll come to his senses." Lydia should have listened, should have seen the warning signs, but she was in love, and love made her stupid. The wedding was small. Yi Hyun's family barely attended. His mother showed up late, dressed in white, which Lydia later learned was a deliberate insult in Korean culture. But Lydia smiled through it, played the grateful, humble wife. The first 2 years were good. Yi Hyun worked long hours at his family's investment firm, but he came home. He listened to her stories about the kids in the cancer ward. He cooked her Korean food on weekends, laughing when she mispronounced the dish names. But then his father died, and everything changed. Yi Hyun inherited a seat on the board of Park Ventures, a multi-billion-dollar private equity firm. Suddenly, he wasn't just comfortable, he was filthy rich, and with that money came expectations. His mother moved to the U.S. permanently, started hosting dinners at their penthouse, inviting business partners and their daughters. Women with last names that opened doors. Women who spoke 3 languages and summered in the Hamptons. "You need to dress better," Yi Hyun told Lydia one night before a gala. "People are watching now. You represent me." She looked down at her dress. It was simple, sure, but elegant. "What's wrong with this?" "It's from Nordstrom Rack, Lydia. I can't have my wife looking like she shops at an outlet mall." The words stung, but she swallowed them. Went out the next day and bought a designer dress she couldn't afford. Wore it to the next event. His mother still looked at her like she was wearing rags. Then came the pregnancy struggles. Month after month of negative tests. Doctor's appointments that turned into invasive procedures. Hormones that made her feel insane. "Maybe it's a sign," Mrs. Park said one afternoon over tea, voice dripping with false sympathy. "Some women aren't meant to be mothers. It's no one's fault, just biology." Lydia wanted to throw the teacup at her face. Instead, she smiled and excused herself to cry in the bathroom. Yi Hyun grew colder, started working later, stopped asking about the fertility treatments. And then Lydia smelled it. Perfume on his collar. Not hers, something floral and expensive. She found the texts 3 months later. Late at night when he was in the shower. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. "Alina Choi. Missing you already. Tonight was perfect." Lydia's stomach turned. She scrolled, saw photos, flirty messages, plans to meet at a hotel. When he came out of the shower, she was sitting on the bed holding his phone. "Who is she?" He didn't even flinch, didn't apologize, just sighed like she was being dramatic. "It's nothing serious." "Nothing serious. You're sleeping with her." "You want to know the truth?" His voice turned sharp. "Yes, I'm seeing someone else, because you've become unbearable, Lydia. Every day it's crying about babies or complaining about my mother or acting like I owe you something. I'm exhausted." She felt the air leave her lungs. "I'm your wife." "You're a mistake I made when I didn't know any better." The words hung in the air like poison. Lydia didn't cry, didn't scream. She just stared at him until he looked away. "Get out," she said quietly. He grabbed his keys, left, didn't come back for 3 days. 2 months later, Lydia found out she was pregnant. Not just pregnant, twins. The fertility treatments had finally worked. She called Yi Hyun immediately, hands shaking, hoping this would fix them. "I'm pregnant," she said when he answered. "Yi, we're having twins." Long silence. "Are you sure they're mine?" Her heart stopped. "What did you just say?" "I'm just saying, Lydia, we haven't exactly been active. How do I know?" She hung up, sat on the bathroom floor, and made a decision. She didn't need him. She'd raise these babies alone if she had to. But Yi Hyun had other plans. He moved out officially, filed for separation. His mother called her once voice venomous. "You think a pregnancy will bring him back? Pathetic. He's done with you. And frankly, I don't blame him." Lydia blocked the number, focused on work, saved every dollar, prepared for a life as a single mother. At 37 weeks, her water broke during a night shift. She drove herself to the hospital, delivered 2 healthy baby boys after 19 hours of labor. Alone, no family, no husband. And then Yi Hyun walked in, with divorce papers. The first 3 months after the twins were born felt like drowning. Lydia worked 12-hour shifts at the hospital, her body still screaming from the C-section. She'd come home to 2 crying infants, formula to prepare, diapers to change, laundry piling up like a mountain she'd never summit. Sleep became a myth. She learned to function on 2-hour intervals, learned to breastfeed while answering work emails, learned to smile at patients while her own life was falling apart. Yi Hyun's child support checks were insulting. His lawyer had structured the agreement so he paid the bare minimum. It barely covered daycare. Meanwhile, she saw his Instagram stories, jet-setting with Alina, designer shopping in Milan, yacht parties in Monaco. One photo caption read, "New chapter, new energy." Lydia stared at it while rocking one of the twins at 3 in the morning. She didn't feel anger. She felt numb, hollowed out, like she'd given everything to a man who saw her as inconvenient. But numbness has a way of crystallizing into something harder, something sharper. At 6 months postpartum, Lydia got a call from a lawyer in New York, a man named Gerald Whitmore. "Ms. Grant, I'm calling regarding your father's estate." Lydia frowned. "My father's been dead for 20 years. "I'm aware. I'm referring to your biological father, Thomas Grant." Her heart stopped. "I don't understand." "Your mother's first husband. He remarried after the divorce and built a significant fortune in commercial real estate. He passed away last month and named you as the sole beneficiary in his will." Lydia's hands started shaking. "That's impossible. I never even met him." "Apparently, he'd been following your life from a distance. He left specific instructions. The estate includes property holdings, investment accounts, and a controlling stake in Grant and Morrison Real Estate. Preliminary valuation is approximately $180 million. The phone slipped from her hand. $180 million. It took 6 weeks for the legal process to clear. 6 weeks of paperwork, background checks, and disbelief. When the first wire transfer hit her account, Lydia stared at the number until her vision blurred. She didn't quit her job, didn't buy a mansion. She paid off her student loans, bought a small house with a backyard, hired a full-time nanny so she could sleep more than 4 hours a night. And then she started asking questions. Smart questions, strategic questions. She learned that Park Ventures, Yi Hyun's family company, was struggling. They'd over-leveraged on a series of bad investments in Southeast Asian tech startups. The board was quietly looking for an emergency infusion of capital or a buyout. Lydia smiled for the first time in months. She contacted the best corporate lawyers in New York, formed a shell company, made a very generous offer to Park Ventures' struggling board members. 3 months later, she owned a controlling stake in the company. The board meeting was scheduled for a Thursday morning. Yi Hyun walked into the conference room annoyed. Another corporate restructure, another investor making demands. His mother sat beside him, scrolling through her phone, bored. The door opened. Lydia walked in. She wore a tailored black suit. Her natural curls were styled perfectly. Heels clicked against the marble floor like a judge's gavel. Yi Hyun's face went white. "What are you doing here?" Lydia took the seat at the head of the table, smiled, calm, controlled. "Good morning. For those who don't know me, I'm Lydia Grant. As of last week, I hold a controlling stake in Park Ventures." The room went silent. Mrs. Park's phone clattered onto the table. "This is absurd. You can't." "I can." Lydia opened a folder, slid documents across the table. "Now let's discuss some operational changes, starting with executive terminations." Yi Hyun leaned forward, voice shaking. "You can't fire me. My family built this company." "Your family also ran it into the ground." Lydia's voice was ice. "Bad investments, inflated expenses, misuse of company funds for personal luxuries. Should I continue?" She turned to him, really looked at him. "Mr. Park, you're terminated, effective immediately." "You're doing this because I left you." His voice cracked. Lydia stood, leaned forward, spoke quietly enough that only he could hear. "No, I'm doing this because you're incompetent. The divorce was personal. This is business. Learn the difference." Security appeared at the door. "Escort Mr. Park out. He has 30 minutes to clear his office." Yi Hyun stood, shaking with rage and humiliation. "You won't get away with this." "I already have." He was walked out, same cardboard box. Same security guards, same humiliation he'd once believed was beneath him. Mrs. Park stood, trying to maintain composure. "This is a mistake, my son." "Your son is no longer your concern here," Lydia turned to her. "But you are. I'm buying out your shares." "Generous offer. Non-negotiable. You have 48 hours to accept or I'll make this very public and very ugly." Mrs. Park's lips trembled. "You have no idea what you've done." "I know exactly what I've done." Lydia's smile didn't reach her eyes. "I stopped letting you destroy me. That's what I've done." Mrs. Park left without another word. Elena Choi left Yi Hyun 2 weeks after he lost his job. She didn't even do it in person. Sent a text. "You're not the man I thought you were. Good luck with everything." Yi Hyun sat in his now empty penthouse. The furniture was gone. Elena had taken most of it, claiming she'd paid for it, which was true. He'd been living off her family's money for months. He tried calling Lydia, blocked, tried showing up at her house. Security turned him away, sent letters, returned unopened. Finally, his lawyer informed him that Lydia was willing to allow supervised visitation. Once a month. If he missed a session, he'd lose the privilege. The first visit happened at a neutral location. A supervised facility with beige walls and toys that looked sterilized of joy. Yi Hyun sat across from his sons, 2 beautiful boys who didn't recognize him. They clung to Lydia, staring at him like he was a stranger. Because he was. "They're scared of you," Lydia said quietly. "You'll need to be patient." "I want to be in their lives," Yi Hyun said, voice breaking. "I made a mistake, I know I did, but I want to fix this." Lydia looked at him for a long time. "You don't get to fix this, Yi. You get to be present, that's it. You don't get redemption, you don't get forgiveness. You get the chance to be a father. If you can handle that, fine. If not, walk away now." "Can we try again, us?" She smiled, sad, final. "No, you killed us the moment you handed me divorce papers in a hospital bed. You don't come back from that." He swallowed hard. "I was wrong." "Yes, you were, but I'm not interested in punishing you anymore. I'm interested in protecting them." She nodded toward the boys. "That's all I have energy for." 3 years passed. Lydia built something beautiful, not perfect, not without scars, but hers. She expanded her father's real estate empire, focused on affordable housing projects, built women's shelters, funded nursing scholarships for single mothers. Every investment carried intention. Every move carried memory. Her sons grew up happy, healthy, loved. Yi Hyun saw them once a month. Sometimes he showed up, sometimes he didn't. The boys barely noticed. One afternoon, a journalist asked Lydia if she regretted destroying her ex-husband's career. She thought carefully. "I didn't destroy him. I stopped carrying him. There's a difference. He built his life assuming I'd always be there to hold him up. When I let go, he fell. That's not destruction. That's gravity." "Do you think he deserved it?" Lydia smiled. "I think people deserve the consequences of their choices. He chose to abandon his family. I chose to protect mine. We both got exactly what we deserved." She looked out the window at her sons playing in the yard. Safe, secure, unaware of the war that was fought to give them peace. "The grass isn't greener on the other side," she said softly. "It's greener where you water it. He stopped watering us, so I planted a whole new garden." She paused. "And it's blooming. So let me ask you, did Yi Hyun deserve to lose everything, or was Lydia too ruthless? And if you had the power and the money, would you destroy someone who destroyed you, or would you just walk away? Tell me in the comments. And remember, life has a funny way of returning the energy you put out into the world. Be careful who you underestimate today. They might be signing your termination papers tomorrow. If you believe in karma, justice, and protecting your peace, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for watching.